We are trying to warn you. Crate 7 of 17, listed as miscellaneous compressed polymers on the manifest. Could have been a clerical error, could have been someone's idea of a joke. Jonah Vale was in the middle of deciding which when 42 Velhari warships dropped out of transit at weapons range, and someone patched his console into a live diplomatic channel. Without asking. The transition alert hit his board first. Proximity cascade. The kind that meant something big had arrived close and fast, not the lazy, patient deceleration of a freighter coming in on schedule. Jonah had time to look up from his stylus, time to notice the bearing display had gone from 4 green friendlies to 46 contacts in the span of a single breath. Time to think, that's a lot of ships. Then his console chimed. A voice came through, clipped, military, clearly speaking to several people at once. Val, your relay is live. Keep the channel open. Don't say anything stupid. He knew that voice. Major Elian. Marine detachment lead on the threshold constant, the actual military vessel in this formation, not a cargo hauler with a relay array that happened to be broadcasting on the right frequency. Jonah had been cross-patching Velhari band signals all morning, coordinating delivery windows. He'd met Elian twice. Both times, the Major had looked at him the way competent people looked at contractors. Useful, temporary, not quite part of the picture. Understood, Jonah said. It wasn't true, but it was the word that came out. The Velhari channel opened. He'd heard Velhari speech before. Port Authority at Hollow Meridian handled transit corridor filings through a joint bureau, and he'd spent 3 weeks of his life arguing manifest discrepancies with their customs agents. This voice was different, measured, precise, carrying the particular cadence of a man who had said the same words so many times they had become a formula rather than a threat. His vowels were rounded, his pacing immaculate, his standard translation clean and clearly rehearsed. He said his name. Jonah missed it. His eyes were still on the bearing display, watching 42 weapon locks populate across the formation like someone had upended a box of red pins across a map. He made himself look away, because watching the weapon locks wasn't his job. His job, apparently, was this. The admiral described his fleet strength with the mild satisfaction of a man reading a quarterly earnings report. 42 vessels. Combined weapons output across several thousand terawatts. Void curtain coverage across the full electromagnetic spectrum, up to and including plasma-class warheads. He described what the void curtain did to energy weapons in 3 precise sentences that might as well have been lifted from a technical manual. Then he said the humans had 30 seconds to surrender or be destroyed. He said it the way a man says something he has already decided will happen, the standard outcome, the one that happened every time. Wasn't it a shame they had to keep doing this? Jonah held the channel open, said nothing. He noticed distantly that his hands were not shaking. This surprised him. His hands usually shook when he'd had too much coffee, during bad turbulence. The time he'd come in on a dead stick over Carados because the landing assist had seized and the field tech had been too far out to reach him in time. But they were steady now. Some part of his brain had apparently assessed the situation and concluded that shaking was not going to affect the outcome. So it hadn't bothered. 30 seconds, the admiral had said. He counted them in his head, not because he was tracking anything. He just needed somewhere to put his attention that wasn't weapon locks or odds. When he reached 30, the Velhari channel stayed open. The admiral was still there. He said, with the faint emphasis of a man recalling that some species required repetition, "You have not responded." His earpiece clicked. Elian's voice. One word. Count. Jonah looked at his manifest. Crate 7, Miscellaneous compressed polymers. Weight differential of 43 kilograms from the filed estimate. No corresponding adjustment in the shipping record. Could be a mislabeled pallet. Could be someone had added something after filing. He wrote a question mark in the margin. Then he said into the Velhari channel, 1. The admiral spoke over him. He let him. He repeated the fleet strength figures. Added something about the historical record of the Void Curtain's engagement performance. 6 civilizations, 40 years, 0 defeats. Reiterated the surrender window. His voice had shifted slightly, not much, just enough. Jonah recognized it, the register of a man who had encountered an unexpected response and was now deciding how to categorize it before deciding how to react. 2, Jonah said, when he finished. He picked up his stylus, made a note about crate 9, listed as sealed equipment, medical grade. He was almost certain it was not sealed. The weight was 3 kilograms light. In his experience, medical-grade equipment was never underweight. It was always overweight because of the packaging. And if someone had opened that crate and removed something, 3. The admiral said something sharp in Velhari, then returned to standard. The 30 seconds had elapsed, he said. The weapons were hot. Then, for the first time, something that was not formula leaked through. Something close to genuine puzzlement. What are you doing? 4 crates unaccounted for, he thought. 4. And this is only number 9. 4, he said. From the military channels in his earpiece, quiet, procedural, the way Ilian's people spoke when they were working, he heard a targeting confirmation. He kept his eyes on the manifest. Watching the display wasn't going to help. He was almost at the end of a line item, and he wanted to finish it before 5. The Velhari opened fire. He felt it the way you feel thunder before you hear it. A vibration in the deck plating, low and enormous. The Canisters run shuddered once as 42 warships discharged their forward banks into the human formation at combined energies the manifest console could not calculate, because it was a manifest console, not a weapons assessment system, and it knew its lane. The screens flickered. One of his cargo bay lights blew out. The coffee in the mug on the right side of his console sloshed once, then settled. 6, he said. The void curtain caught all of it. He knew this because the ship was still there, and he was still in it. He knew it too because the tactical feed Ilian had left open on his secondary screen, a gesture he suspected was meant to keep the contractor from making bad decisions, not to inform him. Showed the energy readings wash across the human formation and disperse like a wave hitting a seawall. Every joule. Perfect absorption. He could feel the admiral's satisfaction from here, even through the static. He finished the line item on crate 9, made a note to flag it at the next waypoint. 7, he said. His earpiece confirmed lock. Another voice, not Ilian. Older, flat, carrying the particular calm of someone who had done this long enough that they no longer found it interesting. Confirmed. 8, fire authorization, acknowledged. 9, he turned the page. Crate 10, agricultural substrate, bulk. He was fairly sure this one was accurate. The weight was right. Nobody falsified agricultural substrate manifests. He checked the lot number against the shipping document. It matched. 10, he said. The railguns spoke. He'd imagined they'd be loud. They weren't. They lived below sound. A pressurized crack he felt in his back teeth more than his ears. Once, twice, 3 times, each separated by about 2 seconds. Then silence. Then the Velhari Admiral's channel went to static for 4 full seconds. When it returned, something had changed. Not his voice exactly. It was still controlled, still precise, still running on the formula. But the formula had developed a flaw. Small and specific. The kind of crack that appears in something you thought was solid when you first put real weight on it. "That is not possible," he said. "Crate 11, Jonah said, to his manifest, not into the channel, just to himself. He hadn't intended it as communication. But the channel was still open. The bearing display became very complicated. 112 ships materialized across the tactical feed. Third expansion fleet, the secondary tag read. Below it, helpfully, known fleet strength, 112 vessels. Engagement record, 6 civilizations, 0 losses. Jonah looked at this and thought that whoever had programmed that tooltip had not anticipated the day it might read as funny. The Velhari formation spread across the display like a closing hand. The human ships were somewhere else. He watched a destroyer blink off bearing 220. Then it was behind the Velhari flagship. Then it was gone. The bearing numbers cycled so fast they stopped being numbers and became something more like weather. He tracked one vessel for 6 seconds and gave up. It appeared in 3 different positions simultaneously, and he'd concluded his console was glitching. Except it wasn't glitching. It was accurate. And that was the part he didn't have vocabulary for. He went back to the manifest. Crate 12, he said, to no one in particular. The channel was still open. Sealed mechanical components. Weight checks out. Lot number. He squinted at the small print. Lot number 7, Tango Foxtrot 2291-R. Matches the shipping document. From the background of the admiral's transmission, he heard something he recognized. Not from military experience. From accident scenes at commercial docks. Multiple voices talking over each other in a language he didn't speak. The specific sonic texture of a command structure generating more information than it could currently process. He kept the channel open, not to say anything important, just to keep it open, the way you keep a call connected when someone on the other end needs to know there is still a person listening. "You should pull your people back," he said. The voice he used was the one he used when a cargo drop was running 40 minutes late and the dock supervisor was getting agitated. The one that said, "Agitation is not going to make the ship arrive faster. We don't want this to be worse than it has to be." The admiral said very quickly, with the precision of a man who had decided the correct response to the impossible was to accelerate through it. "Full fleet charge. All vessels advance." Jonah wrote Crate 13, water treatment filtration media, weight differential with intolerance, no flag required on his manifest, and turned the page. The antimatter canisters went off. He didn't know that's what they were. Not at the time. He found out later, from a technical debrief summary left open on a shared terminal. What he knew in that moment was this: 6 blooms of light arriving on the tactical feed, each one staying white for slightly longer than an explosion had any right to stay white, each arriving approximately 2/3 of a second after the last. 4 seconds total. The light from the 6th was still expanding when the feed updated. The Velhari formation showed 40 fewer ships. The sound that came through the Velhari channel was not a word. It was the sound a person makes when the framework they have spent their life inside has just failed a load test so thoroughly that they have not yet found the new floor. Jonah noted that he had 4 crates remaining and only 1 manifest page left. The admiral kept the channel open. This was the part he thought about afterward. Not the weapons, not the drives, not the void curtain absorbing 10,000 terawatts while the railguns declined to care. The part where a burning flagship, the admiral's voice now carrying a faint audio artifact he recognized as fire suppression systems running wherever he was standing, kept the channel open and started asking questions. "What are your shields made of?" He relayed the fleet commander's voice into his mic, word for word. We don't use shields against kinetic engagement. How do your drives work? Quantum folded. The position state is genuinely indeterminate until we choose to resolve it. What is the yield of your weapons? Variable. Physics is generous. Each answer he delivered in the same flat, unhurried cadence he used for confirming delivery windows, for reading lot numbers back to dock supervisors, for verifying tonnage against a filed estimate. He understood this was not accidental. Someone, Ilian, probably, or the fleet commander, had chosen him for this relay, not just because his console was functional, but because he sounded like this, like someone for whom the current situation was, if not routine, then simply the situation that currently existed and needed to be managed. He checked crate 14, compressed atmospheric gas, industrial grade, 8 cylinders. Weight per cylinder logged individually, total within 0.5% of manifest estimate. He noted it as cleared. The admiral's voice changed on the next question. The earlier ones had come from a place of reconstruction, a man taking careful measurements of the thing that had broken him, trying to understand its edges. This question came from somewhere different, somewhere lower. It came from the place Jonah imagined he would be asking questions from, if he'd been him, if he'd sent in everything he had and watched it become light. How many ships do you have? His earpiece was silent for 3 seconds. Then Ilian's voice, very quiet. Leave that one. Jonah looked at his manifest. He looked at the bearing display, which was calming towards stillness now. The way displays calmed towards stillness when there was simply less to track. The third expansion fleet was no longer arranged in a formation. It was arranged the way things were arranged after a lesson. Scattered, reconsidering, many of its components no longer attending. The admiral was still there, waiting. He thought about what the right answer was. He thought about what silence communicated versus what a number communicated. He thought about the fact that 17 human ships had just engaged 154 Velhari vessels across a volume of space measured in light minutes, and had done so the way a shift supervisor managed a busy day, by keeping track of everything, not panicking, knowing which problems were real and which ones just felt urgent. He thought about the 4 crates still pending on his manifest. He said nothing. The human formation quantum folded at 0847 fleet time. He felt it as a low harmonic through the Canisters run's deck plating. 17 ships becoming 17 points of absence in a single instant. Drive fields collapsing, resolving, gone. The bearing display cleared. The tactical feed updated to formation status transit. The Velhari channel sat open in the sudden quiet, the admiral's presence still faintly audible on the other end. Breath. The creak of a damaged ship making the small sounds damaged ships make. Someone in the background reading damage figures in a low, flat voice that meant they had been reading them for a while and had not yet reached the end. Jonah filed crates 15, 16, and 17. 15 was right. 16 was right. 17, the one he'd started with, miscellaneous compressed polymers, 43 kilograms over the filed estimate, he flagged as weight discrepancy, contents unverified, deferred to next waypoint for physical inspection. He logged the action time and his operator ID. He reached over and closed the Velhari channel. Not because he'd been told to. Because he'd finished. The relay console sat quiet in the half-dark of the cargo bay. One blown light. Coffee still warm. In the tactical feed's last update before it cleared, he'd seen the Velhari flagship's position. Stationary, listing maybe 3 degrees off its operational axis. In 9 hours and something, he would later read, the light from the antimatter detonations would reach the Velhari homeworld. Their astronomers would look up and see something that resembled a new star. They would calibrate their instruments, they would run their calculations, they would realize it was not a star. He didn't know any of that yet. What he knew was that he had 17 crates, 16 now accounted for, one deferred to next waypoint. The manifest was filed and time-stamped. His part of this was done. His hands, he noticed, were still not shaking. He considered that. Either something in him had held, quietly and without fanfare, or something in his nervous system had simply not yet caught up with the last 40 minutes, and would catch up all at once, probably around 0300, when he was trying to sleep. He picked up his coffee. It was lukewarm. He drank it anyway. Somewhere in the wreckage of the third expansion fleet, the admiral was still on an open channel, talking to no one, asking the question no one had answered. And the thing about that question, how many ships do you have, was that it was never really a military question. It was a question about the dimensions of the pit he'd just found himself standing in. A man reaching for the walls in the dark, trying to understand how far down the floor was. The answer, the silence, the empty bearing display, the 17 afterimages dissolving into nothing, was not a refusal. It was the answer. You have not yet seen enough of us to ask the right question. Jonah set down his coffee cup, picked up his stylus, and started on the fuel consumption log for the transit. The paperwork didn't stop just because the universe had shifted. It never did.